Approval of the minutes of the last meeting. The minutes were sent out electronically. Did everyone review the minutes, and does anyone have any additions or corrections or comments regarding the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes? And a second? So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes have been approved. Are there any additional items to be added to the agenda today? All right, there being none, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda as it is written. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion we approve the agenda.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. The financial report. Joe.
It's the end of the year for the grant. So for June and May, we billed a total of $32,032.36, which completed the contract and the funds that were available to us.
Any questions regarding the financial report? Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, under old business, we listed the Potawatomi County governing body of bylaws. At our last meeting, we had a question regarding our bylaws, and it was discussed, and the decision was made that we needed to take a look at our bylaws again since they hadn't been reviewed in a period of time. And so I had them sent out, or Joe sent them out for us. Thank you, for us to review for this meeting. As I read through the bylaws, I didn't see a lot of changes other than the fact that the number of meetings we have needs to be updated in the bylaws from 4 to 6, which I should have circled, but I didn't, so now I don't see that those are here. Are there any other, is there any other discussion regarding the bylaws? Do you feel like we need to do anything else with them at this time? Okay. Is there a motion to update the bylaws with the state code and the meeting number from 4 to 6?
I so moved.
I second.
Okay, so we've made a motion and seconded it to amend the bylaws to update it to the number of meetings that we have on a yearly basis from 4 to 6. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. So, Joe, if you could make that amendment to the bylaws and then document that we reviewed the bylaws on this date. Okay. All right, under new business, I would like to introduce Mary Stanley, who is here, and she is here to talk with us regarding a question or concern regarding private sewage disposal system and her request. Mary, would you like to address the board?
Sure. I didn't know who you were.
I'm Susan Beadle. Sorry, Mary, we should have introduced ourselves.
I don't know how to pronounce that, but you're not okay. And there's nobody else here. I have Rita, and there's do I leave theirs, or
We'll get those to them. Thank you.
okay. The reason I'm here is because I called the Board of Supervisors thinking I had to go to them, but they said no. Since it had to do with the septic, it had to come to you guys. And, okay, I wanted to print off all of chapter 69, but I didn't think you guys wanted it. You probably know what it is. So the 2 pages in chapter 69 that pertain to my emails are stapled to the emails. And then this here is just an informational thing. It shows that there's nothing, nowhere in any of this stuff that I've read says anything pre-2009 has to be crushed anywhere. This is just information, and pretty good information there. And that's from the state. This here is just a DNR thing showing like what your position is, I guess, as far as Board of Health. This thing here just gives a little thing about it. And this here is the form for if you're applying for a septic. It says how many gallons you need for a certain amount of bedrooms. And so I circled the 1,500 gallon because that's what he has. And you only need the 1,250, but I circled it and showed that. And then this one here is the 2 emails I got back from Dan Olson from the DNR, attached to the 2 pages of chapter 69 that apply to those emails. And then this here is the septic compliance that he received, my son received in 2004. And when you look at it, it shows a septic, but, and then the laterals, actually, the laterals are dropped down a little bit lower than the septic in these 5 laterals, but on this black stuff, you can't see it. But that just gave you that there. And then I was going to read my letter to you because that's why I'm here. Okay. My name is Mary Stanley, and I live at 23996 Dogwood Road, Council Bluffs, Iowa. The reason I'm here is I've been refused a building permit, which I already have paid for on June 15th. My son wants to build a stick home. He has been living in a mobile home since 2004. When he moved on the acreage, the utilities were put in to accommodate the house that he would eventually build. The septic system is a 1,500 gallon, 2 compartment cement tank with 5 laterals 100 feet long, with the tank covers at the top and the filter on the septic. Everything meets state and county code that passed inspection, or it would not be living there. It is big enough for a 4-bedroom home. He is building a 3-bedroom. He just had it pumped about a month ago. I gave all the paperwork and blueprints to the lady and said I only needed the building permit because he already had a well and a septic. After a few minutes, she returned and said that you have to have a new septic because that septic is pre-2009. And I said, that septic is just fine. It was just pumped and it meets all the requirements as far as size, where it sits, the laterals. Remember, the county inspected it when it was installed, and it is sitting in the spot to accommodate a floor drain in the basement of the house that they want to build. I was told I had to talk to Maria. She was not there, so I went home and looked for septic laws 2009, and the next morning I was back into the office. The only thing I could find with 2009 was the transfer title law. If you were to buy or sell a home, there would be a transfer title, then your septic had to be inspected by a certified inspector. This law makes perfect sense. It was designed to get the still 100,000 homes in Iowa that have poor systems and run their sewage into the ground or creek or field without a leach system. When I said that, 2009 law doesn't even apply. She said the same things. It doesn't apply to you, but you want to hook a new house up. And that septic needs to be crushed and filled in because it doesn't meet code. By now, Matt is there, and when I said it does meet code or you would not have passed it, he insisted it doesn't because it's pre-2009. When I asked him what they changed, he threw down a 30-page chapter 69. He says, we are just following state rules. I said, that is a stupid rule, and he told me that when the state made that rule, they would not even send someone down to discuss it with them, and he insisted that it was the state law, and the state didn't want to discuss it with them. And he said that over and over. I believe Kay was still director at that time. but I didn't say anything to him. I took the 30-page code, or whatever you call it, and started reading. But before I left his office, I asked for the name of the person who he answered to at the state. The DNR guy is Dan Olson. I read and could not find anything. I emailed Dan and gave him a short story and asked him where it said that in the code. And he said sometimes counties have stricter rules because Iowa is a home state. I called Matt back and said the state isn't against hooking up to an existing septic. Matt just kept insisting it needed to go, and I kept saying it doesn't say anything like that, and he just kept referring me to 6914. He said, that is what pertains to you, and I kept saying, we meet all the requirements. And he said, it was pre-2009, so it's not watertight. Again, I said, you guys passed it, and I've talked with the manufacturers, and they have always followed state and county laws laws, and they don't make them any different. He just kept saying over and over through our conversation that pre-2009 were not certified tanks, and he is only following state laws, and the tanks does not pass code. I said, show me the code change. Show me where the code changed and why it doesn't pass. And he just kept saying, they are not watertight. So if that is what the county or state came up with, this is my opinion, where are all the studies done on pre-2009 septics? You just can't say that and have it be true. There had to have been an intense study done on all pre-2009 tanks. Nothing in Chapter 69 or the ordinances, and I have that other big packet of ordinances, that 5.5 thing too, but it didn't say nothing in there either. And say anything that, it doesn't say anything to that effect. I said, you want us to purchase a new tank that would be no different at all and crush the other, and it would cost a lot of money, at least $12,000 to $14,000. And he said, they don't cost that much. I said the county or state should fork over the money because everyone involved has followed Iowa laws and codes when making them. The tank sits lower on the property, and the laterals are even lower to accommodate the new house because it would have a floor drain in the basement. I kept saying, you just need to release the building permit so we can get started. And he said, I'm done talking with you on this matter. We are just following state laws. In other words, don't call me back. I sent another email off to Dan and asked him to please show me where I can find that the septics are certified because I have talked with 3 different manufacturers and they all said the same thing. We have always followed state rules and codes when making their tanks, and that guy doesn't know what he's saying. Dan emailed me back and said, we don't certify the manufacturers. The only ordinance verbiage that got added was the word watertight. Since Matt didn't want to talk to me anymore, I left a message with Maria to call me, but she hasn't returned my call. I wanted to tell her that what Dan said. Matt has nothing in writing that says where to go to purchase the kind of tank he wants you to have, not the state. We're dealing with Matt's rules. Matt has nothing in writing that says every tank pre-2009 is not watertight. Matt has nothing in writing that says you cannot hook up to an existing septic. Matt has nothing in writing that says you need to replace your septic pre-2009 if hooking up a different building. But what is in writing is that if you are hooking up to an existing septic, then make sure it is the right size and has the right amount of laterals, right size and the right amount of leach system for that building that is being hooked up. I asked him over and over what would be the difference if I purchased a new tank, and he said it would meet code. That's all hogwash. The septic system that is there was designed to last 50 years or better. Same with the leach bed. Now, I guess the reason I had to meet with you guys, the Board of Health, is because the stuff coming out of the septic is harmful if the system is bad shape or if you don't have it installed properly or inspected by the county. So I'm guessing the Board of Health don't really care if the crap going into the septic comes out of a mobile home or a stick home. It's all the same crap. Maria and Matt seem to think the crap is different because they both said that septic is just fine if you want to leave the mobile home hooked up, but you need to crush it if you are hooking up a new building. I was wondering what college or school they went to figure out the difference in the crap. I understand why fully that Matt and Maria were not in that position in 2009. Matt and Maria are enforcing laws that don't exist in writing. What made them say all pre-2009 tanks are not watertight? That statement has to be followed up by a reason or conclusion from some study. And Maria said they don't even inspect do inspections on existing septics, so where are they getting their info? I stopped in on the 6th, and Maria was there and showed her the email Dan sent me and what Matt had said to him, and asked her to show me the ordinance. Now that email shows you an ordinance that Matt said that they had. And Matt was talking about in the email, and she said, we are just following state and county code. And she got on the internet, tried to find something for me, but I said, no, I want to see this ordinance, one Matt's talking about in that email. I can't find it. I read all the stuff, and it pertains to septics, and I could not find anything like what you're telling me. Don't laws have to be in writing before they can be enforced? She said she would talk with Matt and get back with me. Maria just called me. It is Monday the 10th at 9:30 a.m. She said, I talked to Matt, and he said it is an interpretation of what Chapter 69 is saying. She said they wanted the state to change it, but they never have. I said, so issue my building permit so we can get started. And she said, not until you agree to put in a new septic. I said, who interprets it? And she said, us in the office. Matt and Maria lied to me more than once. They insisted it was the state. And Matt even said we couldn't get them to come to explain the law to us. They would not sit down and explain it. They lied about the tanks that had to be certified. They lied when they told me that they are just following state laws. Matt lied when he told Dan about the ordinance in my email. He is definitely lying when he said all pre-2009 septics are not watertight and do not meet code. I spoke with Mills County and Harrison County, Mike at Mills and Matt at Harrison County, Matt in Harrison County, and they both said they would allow that house to be hooked up. Matt and Maria have given me the runaround for a month with their false information, and it's time to issue me a building permit. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Okay, Matt, you have some things to say?
Yes, an explanation of what Mary has discussed. They came in, they asked for a building permit for her son to construct a new house on that property. In 2009, the code change became effective from the Iowa DNR. It states in that code, it was showed to her several times, that any existing building that was, or any new building that was going to be hooked to an existing system, the system had to meet the standards of this code. Also in 2009, they changed the requirements on the tanks. All tanks had to be watertight. It does say in there that the local authorities can ask for proof that the tanks are watertight. The decision had been made in 2009 that we were not going to do any sort of testings on the tanks. It was just going to be new system. If you're going to build a new house, a new system was going to be installed. That's been the policy since then. We have probably had 50 systems installed of people who are doing not only just additions onto their house, or there was 2 houses that got hit by a tornado, burned down. Either way, irregardless of what's going to happen to your house, if you're going to try to mess with the system pre-2009, the whole system has to be upgraded. We tried to explain that to her. I referred her to Dan Olson to talk to him. They did check around. She says that she talked to Mills County. She says she talked to Harrison County. This is one of the reasons why, just to kind of a reminder to the board, that we do stay so stringent with the septic rules, even though the state may say, well, you can look at it on a case-by-case basis. You can try to do this. You can try to interpret it the way that the state person might. But if it's not in writing, our office has always been under the understanding that we follow what the code says. Mills County, for years, did not follow what the code said, and they did their own part of it. The county and the Board of Health wind up getting sued. They lost a $2.7 million judgment against them and paid out for a whole lot of inadequate septic systems that we're hooked to. We tried to work with the state. We go to several state trainings a year. We've talked to him almost every time that we're up there about changing the language within the state code to make it match up with some of what he will tell people and some of the things that just maybe would apply better to our area. None of those changes have been successful at going through. So my request would be is that we uphold the standing interpretation and that in order to construct a new home, a new septic system will be installed.
But where does that say that in here? I know it's an interpretation, but
No.
where does it say that it needs to be
So 69.8.4 is the top where it says watertight
watertight?
tanks.
Right.
69.13 general regulations, number 4. If a building is to be connected to an existing private sewage disposal system, that existing system shall meet the standards of these rules and be appropriately sized.
So Matt, what you're saying is you're not treating anyone different. So anyone, you're not gonna, we probably don't have the manpower, you're not gonna go out and test any prior to 2009 to see if they're watertight. If they're pre-2009, a new building's gonna be constructed, you have to get a new septic.
Correct.
Okay.
We've been consistent across the board on that.
And Mary, when was yours
2004.
inspected?
Wait a minute, that was put in 2004, and it was just pumped about a month ago.
So it was inspected a month ago.
No, they didn't.
No,
pump.
They don't
Oh,
expect
it was
it.
pumped. It was, yeah, it was pumped.
There's
Now,
no
I
way to-
asked him about, this is another thing I asked him. I said, okay, so you want us to take this septic tank out? We put another one in the same spot? And he wouldn't even go with that one. No, it has to be crushed and you have to move it. But that's not my point here. My point is there's nothing in there that says anything like that. And your interpretation of what one are you trying to interpret there, because I can't see anything that says you have to crush it. All I see is that even in the 2009 transfer title law, it says if my septic is old and not up to code, it says I circled it. It says you're fine. We just don't want the stuff coming out of the other end not to be raw. And I circled it just so you would know that that's state. And he kept telling me, all we're doing is following state laws. Okay, that's state laws right there. And you have to follow the minimum state laws. There's another one that says, what if my septic is inadequate or something? They said, well, just bring it up to par or whatever, you know. It doesn't say anything nowhere in anything I've read. For the past month, I've been trying to figure out these ordinances. We have so many ordinances. Nothing says pre-2009 are not watertight. That you have to have almost a intense study done to even say that, because the manufacturers say they make them the same way. And that word watertight just means like, okay, if I'm going to go put in a brand new house and a septic now, then okay, it's up to you to say, well, is it watertight? Well, the manufacturer says it's watertight, and the guy that's installing says it's watertight. It's up to you, I guess, to figure out if it's watertight or not.
But the county isn't inspecting to see if they're watertight.
No, we
Okay.
So I'm just saying, there's nothing in there at all that says it. Matter of fact, it says in there that 2009 transfer title to get the 100,000 homes that are putting raw sewage out there. This is a perfectly good system. It's designed to last 50 years, and it would be a waste of money and everything. I definitely think that the building permit needs to be issued, and you just can't go by something that's not in writing. And I don't know what he handed you if it says that in writing, but he sure as heck didn't show it to me. When I was in there, he didn't say, here, this is it. He just threw down the whole chapter 69, 30 pages. And then I went and found the 505, the sewage thing, and read that. But he didn't say anything like that to me about it. And it still doesn't matter. I'm going by Iowa, and he kept saying I'm going by Iowa code and county codes. Well, that's there's nothing wrong with that system. And
Is there some way that
like common sense?
Sorry. Is there some way that it can be inspected?
I don't know of a way it can be inspected. It does give us that,
The code does say
it does, say, yeah, that you can, that the administrative
we may
authority
have
can find
to
it.
provide proof that the
Can we-
system is watertight.
We can request proof of it, and so we did throw that around in the office. There have been points in times on some building inspections, possibly we say, you know, go get an engineer to come in and sign off on it, and the engineer will write a letter to it and put their stamp and seal on it, and we have accepted those in some building code instances. But I just don't know that that would apply to a septic tank like this. I feel like we've tried to be more than reasonable with Mary on these different issues that she's come up with. We've showed her several times the code sections that she's requested. But the way codes are written, it's not going to specifically state in there what she's requesting for a code section.
I'm just following.
And the time of transfer laws that she keeps trying to quote out don't apply to this scenario. The time of transfer is if you're selling a property, and it was a system that they came up with to try to improve upon some of the septics as the properties would transfer. This just fully relates back to hooking a building, what the code section there says, hooking a building into an existing septic. With the existing septic not meeting the requirements of this chapter is what we go off of. I do feel, I mean, it is unfortunate. It's part of the information that she received from the septic installer. I mean, he lost his license just last week because of things that he had been doing inappropriately across for other residents and handing out bad information, I guess.
Who got their license and revoked?
Mr. Showers did.
It's still on your sheet. Showers, the sheet that you gave me out for.
It was for the time of transfer and program, Mary.
Huh?
It was for the time of transfer and program.
Well, that didn't have nothing to do with my septic tank, and you tried to tell these people that you gave me all the rules and laws. You threw me down 30 pages, and then finally when I called, you said number 4 is 4B or whatever on there, 69-4 is the one that pertains to you. Well, the one that pertains to me is hooking up to an existing septic, and we meet all those requirements. It doesn't say anything like, but if you're hooking up to an existing septic and your tank is 2009 or older, then you gotta crush it. Nothing like that. Nothing when you go to apply for it. It says 1,500 gallon for 4-bedroom. Okay, he's got a 1,500 gallon for a 3-bedroom. He's got the tanks, the top, it's been pumped, he's got the filter, he's got the leach, and to me, the health would be more important, like what comes out the other end, not what's going in this way. I don't understand your whole thing. You're trying to say that the new tank I'm gonna put in is being different. You're trying to say every tank that's pre-2009 leaks, and that is false, so. I just don't know how you can even come and say that. I don't even know how you can bring it out of your mouth like that without having some intense study on every 2009 septics.
Who would be qualified to inspect a septic to see if it was watertight
Existing
for a
system
home?
for watertight.
It'd have to be an engineer.
An engineer?
Mhm.
And then that person would be responsible for paying that engineer,
Mhm.
I assume.
And another thing is, isn't all concrete porous? I mean, you're gonna have a little bit of seepage, aren't you, somewhere? The whole idea of the septic is to put it through a leach field, so when it comes out the other end, it's clean. And common sense just says, this whole thing that he's been telling me there's no common sense in this thing at all, nothing.
Mary, thank you for presenting your case here.
Okay.
We understand your concerns. I think that we need to uphold the code as best we can as a Board of Health. And so we need to have some discussion amongst ourselves with the Board of Health to be able to give you a final decision.
Okay. I can leave.
I'm not sure we can do that right this
Oh,
minute
no, that's
without
okay.
having some time to
I
review and deliberate regarding your request.
I know.
Certainly, I understand your request very much. And we are also bound to follow the word of the law that says that the tank must be watertight. And so what our options are for watertight and the way it's been upheld before is that there's not a good way to prove that they're watertight, so they've replaced them.
Okay, so when you look at that law, and it says watertight in there, it doesn't say, it says watertight from the time that verbiage was put in there in 2009. So from here on out, the ones that are inspecting the tanks should make sure that they're watertight if that's what they want, and if the manufacturers are making them the way they want them, because there hasn't been any change. I've talked to 3 manufacturers across Iowa. Another thing is, it doesn't say you have to crush the ones ahead of it. You know, it just says from now on, make sure they're watertight. It's kind of like those are grandfathered in, because otherwise I wouldn't have circled all of them. You don't even have to meet code on some of them septic tanks according to the state. So it just says as long as they're in a leach field, it's way better than running it out into the field. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for presenting your case.
Okay, thanks.
We'll get back. Okay. Board, I think we have to, in my opinion, we have to uphold what the code says, and I don't have enough information in front of me today to be able to say that she could hire an engineer and determine that that tank is watertight, even though it was placed prior to 2009. So I feel like we need some, what other discussion do you have? What are your thoughts?
Well, I kind of think we should uphold the code, because I think it's a slippery slope. If you start saying, well, this person can be inspected, this person can't, I mean, there's a lot. And the county's not gonna go out and inspect anyone that has a septic right now, unless you have a new home or something, but I think we're kind of going down a slippery slope. It says it has to be watertight. There's nothing, all the ones manufactured are put in after 2009, I assume, were inspected as watertight, so they're good to go. But there had to be a date at some point.
Right.
2009. So, I mean, I'm sure there probably is not that many that this is even going to affect. But, I mean, down the road, if people start selling their houses or, it may be an issue, and I don't think that they have the manpower to inspect all of those.
Well, we certainly don't want to open up a can of worms that puts loopholes in for every single variance that comes along.
I don't feel comfortable to vote. I need to.
We need time to understand this a little bit better.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to table this, reconvene at another time to come to a decision?
I motion that we need time to look into this, so that we can have the information and have time to look at it to make our vote.
I would only make one request, that if you choose to table it, that if we can reconvene at some point then next week, because it is affecting their building permit, and the longer they're waiting for the building permit, of course, the more frustrating they're getting.
Absolutely.
I just don't know if there's any more information
I don't, I guess.
in a week to gain. I mean, it is what it is. It's the county ordinance. It's anything before 2009. It's pretty, even though.
I've read through the ordinance multiple times.
Yeah. I don't know that a week is gonna give me any more information. And I'm gonna be out of town next week, so
Okay.
not that it's pushing it, but I think that we have the ordinance, we have the,
All right, would you like to present a different motion?
yes, I move that we uphold the, ordinance and that the septic tank be replaced. Because it was put in 2004.
Well, we have a quorum of 3 here. Matt, does there's nothing here, and like Amy says, we haven't had time to read the whole statutes and everything regarding the crushing of the tank and the moving of the fields and so forth. I assume that if those lateral fields are fine, they might be able to use the same laterals, and it's just the tank that has to be repositioned?
No, because that was another change that they made in the 2009 code stating that if you're going to change one portion of the treatment system, you have to change
the whole thing.
You have to change the whole thing. And the crushing of the, what she's referring to on the crushing of the tank is the abandonment procedures for a septic system. You can pump it out and you can fill it full of sand if you so choose. Most people, most installers just choose to pump it out and then just crush the tank in and fill it over. Some people will crush it in and then put sand on top of it and fill it over. I mean, it's just a varying.
Just the process.
Mm-hmm. The laterals normally just get left into place where they were at. If it's a tight area and they can't move to a different area, the installers will try to go in between the rows. But best case scenario is for a new zone to be used. But
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to uphold the code as it is written and require that the septic system be replaced prior to the issuing of the building permit. Is there a second to the motion?
I still don't feel comfortable. So I'm not gonna second it.
Okay. So at this juncture, we don't have the ability to make a decision because we don't have a second to the motion. So we will have to reconvene to make the decision.
Okay, so what if she did get it inspected? What if we left that up to her? That, if she didn't want to go with the new system, but she paid for and got it inspected and it was approved, is there somewhere in here that I'm not seeing that would not be okay? Am I not just because I haven't.
It does say in the code that the local authority has the ability to request that kind of proof from the property owner. I would just, if it would be the first time that our office it would be a change for us to go that route. And if the Board of Health wanted us to go that route, I would just ask that you specify that inspection be done by a professional engineer.
Versus like a septic company or something.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a time of transfer, so then she's kind of brought up 2 different inspection things. The time of transfer, the state has licensed time of transfer inspectors. They go out there and they check and make sure the system is functioning.
And that's when it's being sold.
And that's when it's being sold.
Okay.
That's that inspection.
And that's not in,
The
that's
state,
not even
no,
what we're talking about.
Yeah, the state trains those people, they license those people, and they monitor that program. We review the reports from them. This inspection, we're requesting to find out what the quality of that tank is. And that it would be above and beyond what that inspector could provide to us. So that is why I would request that it be a professional engineer that would bring us an inspection report on that.
Is that a specific type of engineer, like environmental, or is that just?
It would just be just a professional engineer.
Okay. Okay, so I'll amend my motion.
So, yeah, if we motioned to either have it professionally inspected by an engineer at their cost and bring back that the findings say that it's watertight, or if she doesn't want to do that, then she needs to put in a new
Replace
system.
System.
Is that,
Mhm.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor that states the, Mary Stanley can obtain a professional inspection of the existing septic system by a licensed engineer to determine whether the current system has watertight tanks and meets the other codes and present that, or she can choose not to pay for that and just implement a new septic system to obtain her building code. Is there a second?
Yep, I second.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
I,
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion is carried. Okay, next on the agenda. Maggie Reyes is here, and from the county attorney's office, she wanted to address the board.
Well, Matt just asked me to come and kind of more so introduce myself as his office takes on more responsibilities in the public health area. And you guys are moving your meetings here. I just wanted to introduce myself to you guys to let you know that I work at the county attorney's office. I've been there for 14 years. All I do there is I'm the civil legal advisor to the county officials, department heads, elected officials, the board of supervisors, et cetera. And so one of the things I do is if Matt has an issue, maybe similar to the one you just discussed, although I didn't discuss that one with him. Those would be issues that, Matt can come and speak with me if there's additional information that, you guys would like that we can research or assist you with. I just want to let you know that we are available for you guys and to assist you guys in doing that. That's just what I do at the county attorney's office. I make it sound small, it's very big, but that's one of the things that I do. And so part of, you working a little bit more with Matt is that's also what you get is, benefit to that, I guess, is that you also can get the county attorney's advice and that we're available for you if you guys need us to be at meetings or research or give you advice on anything. That's one of the things that we're also available to do for you. So just wanted to put a face with a name and come and introduce myself to you. And if you have any questions, let me know where I'm at and how to get a hold of me.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So one thing Maggie said is that Matt's office has more jurisdiction over public health. I would like more information about Matt's role and Matt's responsibilities and his organizational charts and those kind of things so that I understand what this transition consists of and where all of this is coming into play. So, having sat on the board for numerous years and having the planning and the environmental health covering certain parts of public health regarding tattoos and swimming pools and all of that. I just am trying to become better informed, and I think our board all needs to become better informed in what Matt is over and what his agenda is and how it melds with our public health department. So, Matt, I would ask you if you would please provide me with provide the board with a listing of your job responsibilities, your organizational charts, your contracts, and how they meld into the Iowa code that we have the legal authority over as the Board of Health. So could you prepare that for us? Or do you want to say something? Go ahead.
I can. I probably should have spoke up under new business at that time. But we are, my department, we did the organizational chart change. I remember it's closer to the beginning of the year where we separated out a few of our divisions into we had the building division, zoning and land use division, and then the public health division. Underneath of that public health division, that was when my office, the board of supervisors at that time, the negotiation between the B&A contract and the board of supervisors just kind of happened openly in the meeting, and the board that was there at the time wanted somebody else to take over those negotiations rather than having one or two of them do it, and so they passed that responsibility over to my office to negotiate with the B&A on their contract to facilitate the Board of Health meetings. My goal is that our office will someday become an authorized agent. I'm hoping to do that within 6 months, but possibly a year. I've talked to Don Mao about it, and then that contract that we have with the B&A to facilitate the meetings and to be the authorized agent for the Board of Health would then go away, and we would be the authorized agent. That's not to say that the V&A would go away. I don't want anybody to think that in any way, shape, or form, because they still do have a contract with the Board of Health to provide different services. It would just be the contract that is to facilitate the meetings and be the authorized agent. And I know there's always some questions about, what may be my agenda in coming forward. And this has been I've been fairly open with this since the beginning when the organizational change came across about the public health division. That was my goal, to have a county health department that was self-sustaining basically, and we were able to provide services to county residents. The Board of Supervisors, when they appointed me to this position, did so under that I am here for what's best for the Potawatomi County residents. And that's, I'm not trying to generate revenue. I'm not here to make a profit. I'm just here to do what's best for the citizens. And that's when I come in every day, that's what I'm trying to do. And so those are my goals. And Maria has really stepped up in our office and helped out as far as when we took on animal control, the scheduling of the personnel, scheduling of the on-call. She set up she set up the schedules for that. She set up a hotline through the IT department for the 911 center to call that would ring through the phone numbers. All the same thing as far as going forward with our new recycling center. The new recycling center has expanded employee base, and the scheduling of that has all been handled by her, so that's been a big help. Any kind of educational materials or certifications that we've needed, she's been more than willing to go out and get for us. And I'm going to go to the Board of Supervisors to do another little bit of an organizational change as far as what her position is, because right now she is the environmental health coordinator, and I have reshaped a job description by looking out across the state to see how other counties handle it, and having a public health administrator. And that will be a position that is hopefully up and coming. But those are just some of my goals right now. I mean, and it may be, and it's, when we see the news stories that come out and say that we're 94th out of 99 in the health rankings, and when you talk to different people and how our public health system in the county has been kind of scattered all these years, being able to bring it in together to have a better shaped public health system, I believe is going to be for the better of the county. I think we'll be able to improve our health rankings. Some of the ideas that I have out one of the ones that I was going to present today on the sunscreen dispensers at local pools, and being able to have the Board of Health make a recommendation to do something like that and slap a Potawatomi County Board of Health sticker right on the side of it, so people know where that came from, and then the recognition of it, and to expand upon different things like that. And I can't take credit for that idea because I saw it on the national news, but it seemed like a great opportunity for the Board of Health to do something good for the community and get in a highly visible way. Not to say that nothing good has ever been done, but this is just a highly visible way to get the recognition for the Board of Health out there.
Okay. Well, thank you for that information. I would like to have an opportunity to also hear from Dawn, who's going to present some information for us today about the role of the Board of Health and our structure. And I believe the board needs some opportunity to review the contracts and the roles that the VNA has played, as well as what your office is proposing to play, and how the Board of Supervisors and where the Board of Health falls in that hierarchy of decision-making. So I would like to place that on the agenda for our next meeting after we receive those documents. Okay. Any other discussion?
That sounds good.
So the next thing on the agenda is a contract between the Board of Supervisors, the Board of Health, and for Public Health Services. So we have a copy of that contract.
Paper shuffler stuff.
So just a few things. This contract was presented at the Board of Supervisors, I believe, in June, earlier in June.
Yes.
And it's presented here for us to approve and sign at this point, correct?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. Just looking at it, I was, in the past, we've done this as an annual contract, and this contract is for 6 months. Why are we not aligning with the fiscal year of the state and our other public health contracts as we have before?
It's a 6-month contract with an auto renewal in it. The 6 month was, so like I stated earlier, my goal is to be an authorized agent in 6 months. If that does not happen, this contract auto renews and it goes for another 6 months, which would be the fiscal year. And whether or not we can make the authorized agency in 6 months is, I don't know.
And then the other thing I noticed about the contract, and I've looked at some other contracts, is that there are no clauses in this contract for anyone to terminate the contract at any time or be able to be released from the contract, or I did not see those clauses, so I could be corrected, but I was wondering why we wouldn't include that in the contract.
And that was discussed at the Board of Supervisors meeting as well. I don't know that much came out of that discussion other than that's what I informed them of at the time, was that our goal was to get the authorized agent within 6 months or 1 year, and then we would terminate this contract.
But that's different because we should have that in there, that if so be need to cancel, even though it's 6 months and still can be renewed, right?
Well, it just says until terminated by either parties.
It does say that.
Mm-hmm. It's under item number 1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, under number 1.
All right, I'm going to give Amy a minute to look at this contract as soon as I find it. please.
So number 6 on this contract, where it talks about the relationship between VNA and that they will be facilitating the Board of Health meetings. I'll be talking later, and I think this is mixing things because this contract is to give the money, the county tax dollars to the VNA to provide public health services. What this is, the Board of Health, Susan, you're facilitating these meetings. And so I know this was language that was prior to, a long time ago, that VNA would facilitate the meetings, but it's the Board of Health that's in charge of the meetings, not the VNA. So I don't know if that's something maybe you could look at. And there's some other things that I think are mixing in, like responsibilities. So the Board of Supervisors is giving this money to VNA. And my question is, some of the stipulations in here as far as the reports and stuff, is that because the Board of Health needs those things? Because the Board of Health wasn't part of creating this document.
What
So
reports?
why are some of those things in there? Is this, like, normally what happens with the counties when county tax dollars are given to an agency is that are not a county agency, it's a 2080. And just a basic 2080. And so,
This was an agreement, frankly, that the county had had for a number of years. This is the first time I've ever even looked at it, to be honest. So I don't think we changed much on that agreement because we knew it was something that was in flux. I think the time of it is about the only thing that changed. So if you have questions about those things or those things aren't clear, we didn't change those things, but we're happy to look at them, address them. We certainly want a contract that's more reflective of what's actually going on. So we don't want to have a contract that if that's not what's going on, we don't want to have that contract. But this is the first time it's come to me. It's really my first time of, being involved in a lot of these issues. And so, I certainly happy to sit down and talk to anybody and make that. The difference between an agreement or a 28E agreement is really more of a legal clarification or issue. Not every agreement between governmental entities has to be a 28E agreement. If you do have a 28E agreement, I think there are certainly situations that are more appropriate to have a 28E agreement, and 28E just is a code section in the Iowa Code section, chapter 28E, and that governs different governmental bodies, and they can contract with agencies, private agencies, and it has a certain number of requirements then that you need to have in those contracts. But you don't need to have every contract between governmental agencies or a governmental body doesn't have to be a 28E agreement. And this one I don't believe ever has been. If it is a 28E agreement, there's just different requirements that go along with that you have to address specifically in the contract, and then you do have to file that with the Secretary of State every year. So it creates a few more hoops that you need to jump through if it's not a situation that necessarily requires a 28E. I'm not always in favor of creating more hoops where you don't need to have them, but if there's no reason not to have it if you want that. It's just, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. My understanding of how this has gone is that the VNA has provided public health services, whatever requirements or governance of the Board of Health under the code. The VNA has always been there to either provide those services and report back to the Board of Health. That's just my understanding of that. I don't think any of that's intended to change, wanting to change, any of that kind of stuff. I think all we're trying to do, even with this contract, is simply, there's things, I'll just tell you, for example, every summer, the county attorney's office has received these notices of pool inspections. I can tell you I've worked in the county attorney's office for 14 years and I've never known what we do with them, where they go or whatever. And so part of it is also making sure that we in the county are doing a better job. So Matt and Maria and I met and we have a better plan for dealing with those things. I'm going to send them to those. I now have a better understanding myself of what we do with that and what the public Board of Health role or what our public service role is in regards to that. That's just a dumb example, but that's all we're simply trying to do is provide better services, not let things drop through the cracks, provide you the services and the support that you need to continue your mission, which is a good mission, a necessary mission, been done well, and to the extent that we can help and support that, do that better, and utilize the VNA, which has always done a great job of providing public health services as well. That's all we're trying to do. So to the extent that we need to make changes to the contract that better reflects that, absolutely, we don't have any issue with that. This is just the contract that's always existed, and rather than blowing everything up and upsetting the apple cart more, I think we just tried to tweak this contract just very slightly and bring it back. But certainly want it to be as accurate and include the information that all the parties want and need in that.
I just want to say that I met with Matt and Maria, and I discussed this specific thing. It's an ancient contract.
It is.
I did not know this contract even existed until Matt showed it to me.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And so so if I had seen that before, I would have said, tried to help facilitate getting this out of here because VNA is not in control of the Board of Health. And so I'm not trying to say that anything that Matt's doing is wrong but just that this is very old language and maybe that's language that they used years and years ago, but
Probably.
that is not VNA's role to control the Board of Health.
Nor has it been the intent.
No,
I think it's
and you
the
haven't
word.
done that, right? Yes, I think it's just weird.
So because it's there and that the interpretation, and I guess we're subject to deciding how we interpret all of this every day, but what the interpretation of the word facilitate or, facilitate the county Board of Health meetings is, I thought this was the time to discuss this before we made the final decision on this contract and signed it. So that's what's on the table. Board, do you have thoughts? Do you wish to make a motion to just approve this as it's written for this 6 months? Would you like to propose we seek to amend this contract to update the language, and how are we feeling about the 6 month versus the 1 year renewal, since it auto renews in 6 months, if that's an issue or not? Those are the questions that I had when I looked at it, and so that's what I am here to discuss.
Well, I think it's verbiage. I think if it's 6 months because it's July to December, so that's when we're into that 6 months period. I think leaving this for 6 months isn't gonna hurt anything because it's been like this I think I've been on the board 30 years and I think the language has not changed. So I move that we accept this contract with the intent to do some revisions in the next one, some verbiage revisions.
Is there a second to the
So
motion?
who does that?
I don't know who does that. I keep looking at you.
It would be, we could,
Maybe we
get a
could,
representative
Yeah.
from the Board of Health
yeah.
and a representative from the Board of Supervisors and, myself, and we can go through it and figure out and work with Maggie to come up with something more agreeable. The wording in there used to actually state out that the VNA was the control of the Board of Health and the Board of Supervisors. And so we tried to definitely remove the word control, but with more of a facilitate, but we can even modify it more so to, if need be.
That's a good idea.
I think, yeah, we need to get together to definitely change this with Maggie. And the board, yeah. So if we do that, I will second it.
Okay.
All right, that has been moved and seconded to accept the contract as it is for the current 6 months with amendments to the contract in December before it's reapproved. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion has carried. Okay, next on the agenda is proposal regarding sunscreen dispensers at public pools. So Matt has addressed this a little bit, but
I did glaze over this a little bit. So I watched a national news story talking about Beach Boardwalk. One of the communities had gone out there and put in sunscreen dispensers from their local board of health, and the residents all thought it was a great thing. They forgot their sunblock or something like that. So I thought that maybe since we had been we had taken over the pool inspections, and sometimes some of the pool inspections can be a little contentious anyway with some of their operators, that as Maria and her staff went out to them after the inspection, we could say, you know, by the way, we brought this sunscreen dispenser and some refills for you to set out there at the local outdoor pools that we do, and it would be a good way for the Board of Health to get some recognition for good things going on in the community, and hopefully maybe it'll even pay off in our health rankings across the state. But so once I looked into that, then there was the whole brochure on skin cancer in Iowa, and that was attached to the staff report to kind of go over with that. And it seems to be a fairly big issue as it is. And so what I'm requesting is that you would give me a recommendation to seek out this bid proposal. I will go to the Board of Supervisors to get for a funding request once I have the price, and move forward with it.
so I have a couple of questions regarding this, just things to think about. Sunscreen, these are the things that I think about as a pediatric nurse. There's a lot of different kinds of sunscreen out there. There are a lot of young infants who shouldn't have certain kinds of sunscreen placed on their skin because they receive burns or become highly allergic. How long is the sunscreen able to stay in the temperatures of 90 to 100 degree weather and still be effective or not decompensated or, work? We don't want to have sunscreen hanging out there that people put on all their skin and it's not effective because it's been there too long. Who monitors the expiration dates for the sunscreen? Who monitors the cleanliness of the dispenser and how it's changed? Those would be concerns if we put in a public place sunscreen and a child of less than 6 months put the sunscreen, or the mother put it on or whatever, and the kid came to the emergency room, as I have seen with severe skin burns because of the intolerance of the sunscreen. Does that go back to the city and the pool and their insurance because it was, I don't know, provided for them? And I know I sound like a huge naysayer because I think sun protection is huge and malignant melanoma is very bad, but I'm not sure that we've researched this enough to have all the safety checks in place, and what's your plan for that? And then my last question is, where does the funding come from? The Board of Supervisors, or does that come out of one of the state programs from the VNA, or where would the funding actually come from?
My idea was that I was going to, as Mr. Wickman will let you know, go to the Board of Supervisors and request funding, because he sees me do that a lot for different projects, but that was my initial goal of it. As far as will it affect the infants, how long is it effective, and those questions, I have an appointment to speak with the gentleman from Bright Guard, which is the company, and those are good questions that I can get answers to. Maria had brought up the monitoring of the expiration date and making sure that the dispensers were cleaned and or refilled, and how would we, get that part of it done. My idea was that we would have an agreement with the pool that we dropped it off with, that they would monitor it, and that is how they would get, then we would supply them with the refills for it. If they did not want to monitor it, then it is a good reason for our environmental inspector to stop back by the swimming pool and ensure that not only the dispenser's okay, but if they see that the pool inspector is coming by, testing their pool more often so that he can refill their sunscreen dispenser, it would possibly encourage them too to, well, we can monitor our sunscreen dispenser.
Is this for all pools in Pot County? I mean,
All outdoor swimming.
Public pools.
Yeah, I believe we had 6 of them as our outdoor public pools that we handle the inspections for. And as late as we are this year, I don't even know, it wouldn't even be a this year deal. It would be the beginning when they go to start up next year, when we would have these things ready to go.
and is this something that's gonna be like freestanding, attached to like a building?
They're
Do we have
freestanding.
that?
They have a little pedestal
Okay,
and they just mount to it. It looks much like a hand sanitizer dispenser.
in the ground and cement?
It sets on a nice weighted platform.
Oh, so it just comes out in your hand?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not in packets or
No,
anything,
no,
okay.
Nope, just comes right out on your hand. You just
Okay.
put a big dispenser in there and
Well, when you get further information, I'd be interested in the infection control aspects of a multi-dose dispenser too, as opposed to packets or something that's labeled that people have a little bit more information about as they're using it.
It's a great idea. I mean,
well, I'll get some more information. We have some time. I'll get some more information on it and I'll bring it back with some of those questions that you had at the next meeting. And we'll just kind of work towards formalizing the idea.
Okay. Great. All right, moving on to public health. Joe.
I want to give you a little update on the FABs, the Public Health Accreditation. We have signed we are part of a 3-county coalition, Harrison, Pot, and Mills County. We really don't have a title. That coalition went forward and applied. We were allowed some more money from the state. This will total of $10,000 per entity. So actually, there's 4 of us, so it's a $40,000 contract. Mills County is the fiscal agent for that. And there's 2 performance deliverables, each of them worth $44,000 each to each entity.
how much?
$4,000. And then there's a report that needs to be done for $2,000. So that 4 and 2 is $10,000. One is a workforce policy that we will be bringing to the board next time. This policy, we have to just start working on it. It's not that we have to complete it, but we're actually working at having a workforce that's more knowledgeable, doing some assessments, some core assessments, etc. The second one, however, is a strategic plan that I've kind of talked about before that we need the board to do. I don't know that this board I know the people on this board, unless Kathleen or Susan have ever done a strategic planning for public health. That's just never been done. Agencies have done them, but the board itself has not. So Dawn and I have talked and trying to get both boards together and meet, and any other community partners you would like us to invite. Now, every strategic planning I've ever been in on is a minimum of 4 hours. So we, with this money, would then hire a facilitator to come in and run the meeting and come up with what we feel, the boards feel, the community partners, what we want to work on for even the next 5 years. So it's just a heads up. All of that strategic planning at least has to be planned by the end of September. It's a very fast turnaround grant. It was from June 1 to September 29th. So kind of if you can get to me any days that you know work weekends, probably a Saturday, and I hate to, this grant will allow us though to pay for your time, pay for meals, etc. So it's nice, and I hate to give up Saturdays. They're all so important to us, but I think that's the only way we're really gonna get everybody together. So just to give you a heads up, and please let me know if you have a good weekend you think might work. And any community partners you feel you want to bring in. I've certainly been on strategic planning where it was just early childhood people, but we want to include everybody in the community. So, no, we've talked in the past about, I have a list of 300 community partners out there from all different ages. So what works, who you feel would be a good person to bring to the table. So the other thing I have is the Potawatomi County Local Public Health Contract. And this did go out to Susan for signature. It came, I think Susan signed it like Monday or so, or the weekend sometime. It came at the end of the week before. The new contract amount is for $210,456. It has some of the very same reports that are due. This change this year in this contract is that it does not have incentive. It has a disincentive. So if you don't do something, they take money away. Before this last year, you had an incentive. If you filled out a report and sent it in, they automatically gave you extra money. Not that I don't have to prove to her what I used that money for, but the money came in because of what we did. This year, if we don't do it, they're going to take the money away off the top of the contract. So they've changed that. Not your option. So the other thing, and I just wanted to let everybody know and be aware that Susan had signed the contract and it went on to the state. The other thing I have for you is the NIMS agreement. Every year we have done the National Incident Management Training System. And as a county and the VNA being part of the county-wide NIMS for public health, we have had to keep track of any education that has occurred to the people that are in the primary positions, and that's incident commander, and this is only if there would be a public health event. So the liaison officer, the safety officer, the public information officer, the operations, logistics and planning, and finance chief. So nothing changed. I don't have anybody that had currently been on here that's left. I don't have anybody on here that has done more education to add. So it's just a document literally that was similar to last year's. But we let the board know that we sent it in and said it was status quo. And I will, just so you can look at it. All those people that have been in the tertiary positions have been tested at one exercise or another. So we've kind of been able to, and as you can see, Pot County doesn't have necessarily a lot of people, so we play a lot of different roles. And I'm also going to, normally I hand this out and I'm not going to talk long about it. This is for what we've done in the last 2 months as far as disease investigation. And actually the listed ones here are what has come into the county. We've been really lucky, and City Health hasn't been so lucky. So I believe we had one and the rest of them were theirs. They send me a little email out all the time that says, that's ours, we'll take care of it. The other thing we have done in this last month is that we participated in a joint venture with the United Way and the Iowa West Foundation, and we did a nutrition environmental measure survey. So we were fortunate to go out to grocery stores, convenience stores. Diana went to the beer place. To do a survey in regard to foods, the accessibility of foods. It's actually a survey to look at like where they have food deserts. Mm-hmm. And they, coming out from the United Way and Iowa West Foundation, will be a mapping of where there is a desert. Food desert. And it was very interesting to see what was at CVS and Walmart versus Walmart or Hy-Vee and even Walgreens.
Mhm.
So
But that will be
what
great.
they have available for people that maybe live in that area and that's all the store they use.
Yeah.
So very interesting, but it was a hot day. But we enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, so. And the last thing I have is the contracts from that, the local public health contracts that you signed, the 210,000, then that money, and the board needs a vote and a signature on the contracts that then go out to City Health and the VNA. So I will present those. I did talk to Dawn, and this is typically what we've done in the past with Chore when they were in there too, is talk and see how many funds you think you could use. This contract is binding, but we have numerous amendments throughout the year usually. Chore asks for more money, they receive more money. That means an amendment to take money away from the VNA because we hold the bigger pot. The contracts, between the two contracts, it uses up the whole 210,000, so. Unless Don wants more money.
Well,
He's not turning it
He's
down.
not-
I know, I did, I asked him, I said, give me a higher amount.
That's the amendment.
That's right.
Crystal ball.
So is there a motion to approve the contracts as presented here by Joe?
I so moved.
And a second?
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, thank you, Joe. As far as the planning of our, I want to say, strategic planning, thank you. My mind went blank there for a minute. I think that's something that we've agreed is needed for the county, and Joe, if you'll help us facilitate that, do you need a further motion on planning that, or
I
any
just really
decisions at
need,
this point? We just need
I
date,
don't really need a motion.
we
I think
need
that
time, and
yeah.
we need input regarding
think when
partners
it's all
to
done,
invite.
you'll need a motion to present,
Yeah.
to finalize it. But just give me some dates, some people that you feel.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Diana?
I'm talking about the biopreparedness, is that right? We have just finished a 5-year grant cycle with 3 counties in a coalition called the Low Skills Healthcare Coalition. We accomplished quite a few things during that 5-year period. It was kind of trying to get things not to be so siloed as they had been previously, so bringing all the partners, public health, EMA, hospitals at the same table and trying to find some projects that we needed to work on, also working on capabilities in order to increase our preparedness efforts if an event was supposed to, occur. So as we go into the next 5-year grant cycle, we are going to add 8 more counties. It's going to be 11 county coalition, and we have started the process as going to meetings and dividing or developing a governing structure, trying to kind of lay out what we're going to be working on. And of course, the rollout will be coming out next week in Oakland. We usually meet at the community center, as that is kind of a central location for all the other counties to come. So it is going to be a process. I don't even think that the state really knows exactly how we're going to go, but they're going to roll it out to us, and it'll be interesting. And it's been quite an adventure.
Very good.
And Matt and Maria have come to those meetings as well, and so they're abreast of what's going on with that.
I can't imagine trying to get 11 counties together.
Yeah.
Well, the beauty of it is that at one time when we had 18 counties, we are very familiar with those people, especially like public health and the hospitals, and we know each other. There has been some turnover, of course, because we're all aging, but, for the most part, we know our partners and we've worked really well. We're really blessed that we have Doug Reed, as our EMA, and he has a lot of contacts and, holds a lot of agreements with a lot of the other counties. So if we were to get into trouble and vice versa, we can, be stronger in our response. So.
Good. Very good. Okay, I'd like to invite Dawn Mao, our regional community health consultant, and she's going to give us a presentation on the roles and the work.
Can I use the projector?
You sure can.
Do I need just a key fob or can I use my
You
computer?
can do either or.
Where do I need to go?
Be right over here. Get this fired up. That projector takes a minute to warm up.
Does it work better if I use a key fob?
It's either way. If you got your computer fired up, we can just slip that in. HDMI plug.
So I'll just use my, yes, I have a USB.
Wanna try that? That's supposed to do the same thing.
Okay. I might give this to you and then Susan, I know you already have one, so. Okay. And then pass these around to everybody else.
Oh, thanks.
No. What was that? Are you being accused of being Bill Clinton?
No.
So,
How do I turn this in?
It's
It's
just warming up.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
it
right.
takes just a minute
All
or
right.
two. Sorry.
she's got to do those minutes, so she's got to get everybody on stage.
Okay, while we're, I know time-wise, I'm gonna try to keep moving.
Yes.
So maybe I can just go ahead and start presenting even though it's not up yet, and then once it gets up, we'll go from there, because I think some of the slides aren't ones that you necessarily need to see. So today, I'm Dawn Mao with the Iowa Department of Public Health, and I am the Regional Community Health Consultant. And I would like to discuss the roles and responsibilities of the local board of health. I have given you the brand new brochures that were created for local board of health, recently updated. And in here, it gives a really nice little synopsis of what your role as a board of health member is. Also talks about some educational resources that we have on there. And then my role on the very back as a community health consultant and how I can help you and what you may need or get from me. I've also given you an updated list of sites for the local board of health rules and regulations that the local boards of health are responsible for. And I can provide that electronically for everyone. Maybe I'll give it to Joe to include with the minutes when you send those out to people. Does that sound all right? Okay. Public health in Iowa is a decentralized public health agency. So what that means is public health is governed by the local boards of health. Some states have it where it's all state-run. Some have where part of it is local boards of health and part is state. But Iowa is decentralized. It is totally the local boards of health. There's no two counties alike. Where does funding come for local boards of health or public health in Iowa? Agencies apply for federal grants. They have state grants, which is local public health services grant that I oversee. Foundations Medicare, Medicaid, there's the waiver programs, private pay, some of the clients are. Board of Health was, am I doing something or not plugged into the right place?
Shouldn't be that long.
I don't even
Warm up.
see that, is that
Yeah.
light on?
That light's on.
Or am I plugged in on the wrong place?
Well, I wanted to see if I plug this back in here.
Boards of health were created by statute and you only have the authority granted by law. And so those sites that I gave you, you can look to see specifically what you have authority over as a board of health. Do you need this? Let's see. So Board of Health has 5 members. There are some boards of health that have 7 members. I find that when there's 7 members, it's even harder to get quorum. But that is up to the Board of Health. You're required to meet 6 times a year. Have to report the membership to IDPH. So Joe does that. That's part of her responsibility as a project manager. And then she also submits the meeting minutes to IDPH, which are stored on iowogrants.gov. And then you're required to follow the public meeting rules and regs. If somebody were to request Board of Health minutes for Potawatomi County from me, I would ask that they would call Joe and ask for a copy of the minutes, or call Don or Debbie and ask for minutes for City Health. I like to keep that communication clear. Somebody's asking for them. But certainly, if they weren't available, I would give it to them. But I would also make sure that I send a note to say, hey, so-and-so is asking for these minutes, just to keep those communications clear. And we want to be transparent. You as a Board of Health member have jurisdiction over public health matters in the county. You're responsible for assessing public health needs and priorities, which is something that you'll do when you're doing the strategic planning. You did the community health assessment in 2016 was the most recent time. I have got some slides that show where Pot County is and what some of those needs are or priorities. The IDPH has taken that and put that for every county, all 99 counties on the internet. So it's kind of nice, so you can look, well, where's Pot County versus where is Adair County, and what are our needs versus some of the other counties' needs. And then you're supposed to oversee the public health agencies. So Pot County is a little unique because you are subcontracting with your 2 public health agencies. So VNA, that agreement that you just signed or are going to sign, that is subcontracting with VNA, because VNA has a board of directors that approves all their policies and procedures. If they have policies and procedures that are required to change due to my contract, Chapter 80, they would bring it to the Board of Health as a Board of Health to review and then make recommendations, but it would be the VNA's Board of Health that would make those approvals, because it's their board of directors, that's their governing body. Okay, and then the same thing with City Health. So Don, if he has policies, procedures that need to be changed, he might show them to you guys and say, these are some changes that we're making because of Chapter 80, but it would still be his city board of health that would change those and approve those. Okay? Are we up? No. So do you think I have to go on
I think
here?
you have to use your stick if you want it to show up there, yeah.
Do you guys care? Do you want me to keep going, or do you want me to use my stick?
That way they all
I don't
know what's
know,
going
since you
on.
got it ready, you might as well use it.
I just don't want to take your time. I'm so sorry. Here we go. This is it, so I'll keep going. let's see. So what is the Board of Supervisors' role over the Board of Health? The Board of Supervisors appoint local Board of Health members. They have the approval of your adopted rules and regulations. And then they also appropriate county tax funds. So that was that VNA contract that we're talking about, that where they are the ones that appropriate those funds and decide how much that VNA would get, or but Board of Supervisors does not directly determine policy. They don't establish the Board of Health budget, and they do not enforce health regulations. Okay. And of course, you want to work with the Board of Supervisors. You're not going to say, no, we're not working with you. So, I mean, you know, some of that you're possibly working with the Board of Supervisors for advice, or, you know, this is what we're seeing, what are you seeing? You can have a Board of Supervisor on your Board of Health. There was an opinion in April of 2001 where it said, yes, you can do that. And sometimes it works really good. There are agencies that have a voting member on the Board of Health. The only thing is they have to restrain or look at what's a conflict of interest when it comes to voting. There are some boards where it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, then hopefully the county attorney is involved and it's decided what's going to happen. Let's see. I really haven't had to deal with that, so thank goodness. Conflict of interest, you're all required to sign a conflict of interest policy every year. Is that something that you do? We don't do that? Okay, we'll have to start doing that. Okay. So the Board of Health would